Welcome back to our UE4 tutorial series. On a recent tutorial, a viewer suggested a subject for a tutorial. So today we will be covering the process for importing various types of assets into UE4. The first type of asset importing we will be covering is how to import static meshes, or any type of mesh. We go to the folder we want it in, and we click up here on import. You go to the folder we want, and you find it. It can either be a .object or a .fbx. .fbx is the most common, as it can contain many more types of data, including materials and textures and stuff in it. So now if we double click on this, we'll come up with the FBX import options. Now we can import a skeletal, which we're not going to because mine doesn't have a skeleton, it's just a simple cube. We can have it to auto generate collision, which you will most usually want to. We have more settings down here as well. So the LOD group, so what type of asset is it? If you want to specify that, you don't have to. Vertex color import, don't need to worry about that. Remove degenerates, you can read that. So it will stop triangles. It generates its own light map UVs. This is for collision. It means that only one collision hull can be created. You generally want to leave this on with most sort of simple meshes, but you can go and tweak it later anyway, so it doesn't matter. You can import the meshes LODs. Usually your mesh won't have them, but it might, so you might want to have that ticked. We have normal import method, so you can compute normals, so it will generate normals, import the normals, and import the normals and tangents. You'll generally want to leave that on import normals. And we can combine meshes. That means that if there are multiple meshes in this FBX file, then it will combine them all into one. Then we have import translation, so we can change its relative position, relative to the object's origin. We can also change the import rotation, so the rotation relative to its origin rotation. So generally want to leave these on 0, 0, 0 because that's exactly how your mesh was exported, so it'll look the same if you leave it on 0, 0, 0. And we can change the uniform scale of it. We also have import materials and import textures. You will almost never want to turn that off because if it doesn't have any, then it won't import anything. And we can invert normal maps, which you usually want to do. And then you have miscellaneous, which is override full name, and convert scene. You want to leave those on usually. Then if you have multiple and you want to import them all with the same settings, you can click import all, but we only have one, so it doesn't matter, so just click import. And you see I didn't apply material to any of them, to any of the faces, so it will just automatically set them all to material 0. And it also says no smoothing group information was found in this FBX scene. That's because I exported from Cinema 4D. It will still work fine. So now if we open it, you can see we have our cube, and you can see that it imported, it generated collision for it. So yeah, that's our cube done. Now let's import a texture. So click on import, get your texture, and it'll just import. There's no settings for that, for the texture. Then click on import, and this is for audio, so you just double click on it. See, there's no import settings for audio either, but you can look at all the settings and change whether it loops. You can change the compression quality. If it's mature, you can add subtitles. You can change anything you want. And with textures, you can change the LOD bias, so this will decrease the quality of the texture. So if I put on 2, you can see it's actually 1024 by 1024, but in the engine it turns it down to 256 by 256 if you put on 2. So it divides by 2 every time you increase this by 1. And then you have brightness curve, vibrance, saturation. You can change all of this. So it's fully customizable, and you can copy it and paste it, and then you can change the settings on that particular one, and then you can have multiple looking versions that come out of one texture. Then we have importing of fonts. So with fonts, you don't click on import, you go create, and then you go down to materials. In fact, you go to user interface, and you click on font. I'm just going to call it tutorial font. Now you click on here, And in 4.5 and I believe 4.6, this will look very different, but I'm using 4.7 preview, so it will look like this. So right now you can see you can add a font, and you can change what type of font it is, but generally you want to click on here. Now you do have to have an actual font available. So now you see that if you navigate to where your font is, and you change it to what type of font it is, so true type font or open type font, then you can double click on it and import it. Now you can see your font is down here. You can add multiple fonts and you can combine them together. You can add sub-font families, so you can add specific parts from fonts. You can change legacy font size, legacy font name. But right now we are in the setting in 4.7 preview. We are in the setting. This is for if you're using it for UI. But if you want to use it in the world as an actual text object, not in the UI, you want to click on here and you want to turn it to from runtime to offline. You want to click yes. Now you have to actually find the font you want. So let's just use Adobe Gothic XTD. Actually, we will use. Let's go Arial Unicode MS. I'm going to change certain settings here. Color, you want to leave that at black. Script, Western, you want to leave it at Western. And you want to change the size. Generally, the bigger the size, the longer it will take to import. If you go really big, it will take a long time to import. 10 is usually too small. Generally, for something that will look good in most places, you want to go 22 or 24. Obviously, you can import a super high quality one if you want, but it will take a long time. So let's just go 24 for now. That will import almost instantly, you can see. So here's our font. You can see there are some empty ones here because this font doesn't have characters for those particular ones. You can see here we have it set to offline. You can look at all the different characters if you want. I'm not going to. Change the scale, ascent, descent, leading, kerning, and there are other options here, so you can change the font name, the height of it, leave that at that. You can enable bold, italic, underline, any of that. Most of this you want to leave at default. However, if you want to use this in the world, you'll have to enable use distance field, and then with the font material that comes with the engine, then it will work. Otherwise, it won't work. So yeah, that is font importing. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you want to learn more about UE4, then please join me next time.